Right, so I'm currently working on a video where I talk about Christmas movies. Like, it's going to be like my 25 days of Christmas, sort of like all the movies I'm going to watch over the Christmas season. And while I was doing that, I was thinking about movies from the past, Christmas movies I watched as a kid and stuff like that. And suddenly this image popped in my head of like ghost stories at Christmas. And it was like, what's that? And I kept trying to dig deeper into my brain and try and work out what this image was. And it was like, I could see a load of gentlemen in like a gentleman's club sitting around telling ghost stories, and for the life of me, I couldn't work out where this image is coming from in my head. And then I kind of had a vision of renting a videotape from the video shop and the case of it. So then I got on Google. I was trying to find out what this was, and I found it. Right, it's a story. It's a Charles Dickens animated story. So it's something based on something written by Charles Dickens. It's called The Ghost Stories of Pickwick Papers, or The Ghost Stories from Pickwick Papers. And it's essentially like an anthology animated movie from 1987, where it's a group of these like friends, of like dignitary type friends. It's like a gentleman's club, get together to talk about their papers they're writing. Only there's like a power cut, I suppose. This is back. It's a period piece. So it's set back when it was like gas powered lighting in your house. Not so much no electricity at the time. It's just gas powered lighting. And he says like the storm's knocked out the gas pipe, so that's why they've got no power. So all the power goes, and they have to use like candle light to be able to see what they're doing. They said they can't finish their work they're supposed to be doing now. So they decide to sit around because of the creepy atmosphere and tell ghost stories. And then what you get is three pretty decent ghost stories. Now, I have found this on YouTube. The entire 45-minute-ish long animated movie is on YouTube, and I've actually just sat down and watched it, and it's pretty good still. It still holds up as being quite a good little animated thing. I'm surprised not many people know about it, or it isn't as big as, say, something like Lord of the Rings animated was, or Watership Down animated thing was, you know. This is kind of from that period. I mean, 1987 is that same sort of period. And it's very similar to the animation style in the Lord of the Rings animated movie. Like it's got the first two books in it in the animated movie Lord of the Rings. And it's very similar to that animation style. And I sat and watched this thing. It was great. So it's essentially, as I said, it's a group of people. They all go to this little club, this house where they sort of have the little club meetings. And the power goes out and they'll sit and tell ghost stories. And the first ghost story is a real quick, quite clever little ghost story. So it's a story about this lawyer guy. He's trying to find a room to rent for the night. Nowhere's open. He stumbles across this little like inn, knocks on the door. It's like creepy old looking witch woman opens the door, and she says, "Well, we've only got one room." She's kind of apprehensive about letting him stay there. He ends up staying in this room, and at night he's sitting there reading a book. And suddenly he hears this noise coming from the wardrobe. It's like a really big creepy wardrobe in the corner of the room. And out of this wardrobe comes this ghost. It's a proper cool looking ghost, really. It's this old man looking thing with like wispy hair. And he's got like his lips sort of ripped up there. So it's cut and a chunk missing out of it. Kind of like zombie-esque almost. His big glowing yellow eyes. And he tells him that sort of like he haunts this place and he should get out. It's his room. He haunts it because years ago he died here and his fortune was left here and his greedy relatives come along and stripped him bare of all his stuff after he died. So he now haunts this place because he doesn't like what's gone on in there. And the lawyer kind of like doesn't really outsmart him, but speaks to him and gets him to see reason, because he basically says to him, "Why do you come back here then? If this is such a horrible place and you don't like it, go somewhere else." To which the ghost is kind of like, "Hang on a minute, why am I here? Why do I? That's a good point. Like, why am I coming here?" And he had this conversation, and the ghost's like, "Right, well, I'm going to go somewhere else then, somewhere better." And he just goes off somewhere better. And it's quite a funny little, nice little opening story. It's only short, that one. I mean, this whole thing's about 45 minutes long, but that one's only a couple of minutes long, that story. So there's someone else on. So then you go back to the gentleman's club, and there's someone else says, "I know a ghost story," and they start telling their ghost story. And this one's quite a weird one. This is like, it's about a drunk guy who comes up stumbling home from the pub drunk, and he sort of falls into this like old coach yard, or the coach and horses sort of yard, that's all sort of dilapidated and falling apart. All the coaches are broken, all the horses are gone, no one works there. He sort of stumbles into that and falls asleep in there. When he wakes up, it's kind of like he's gone back in time, and the coach place is all working, there's people there and that. And the coach driver suddenly goes up to him, who's got his big coach and horses, and says to him, "Look, come on, we'll go for a ride, come on, we're going to go." And he's like, "Oh, okay." He says he's going to get into it. And with that, suddenly his other passengers turn up, and it's these two men that are kind of crooked, evil looking men, like One of them's like a Scottish warrior type one, and they've both got swords, and the other one's got more bit of a noble looking one, but he's got a sword. And they've got this woman with them who looks kind of shy and like really prettily drawn woman. She's got a very attractively drawn woman. And they get her onto the coach, and a drunk or now sobered up guy. He's on the coach, like a hero type guy's on the coach with them, and they're sort of driving along. And they have a bit of an argument on the coach. So already you can tell like these two men with this woman are not nice men. And he sort of has an argument and sort of sorts them out on the coach a little bit. He's quite a tough guy. And then they sort of, as they're on this coach, suddenly they stop at this little village and they have to get out at this village and go into this little like inn bit for a bit. For some reason, the coach driver doesn't really explain why. He says you have to get out and go in there now. So they'll go in now. And just as the woman's getting off the coach, she drops her glove into this hero guy's lap and says to him, "Help me," as she goes to pick it up. So obviously she's in trouble. So then he decides to go into the bar with them, because originally he's just going to stay on the coach, but he decides, I'm going to go into the bar with him because there's obviously something going on here. And he's sort of sitting there, and the two men are giving him evils and a bit of a thing, and then they're basically all having a fight. And it's a sword fight to basically the death. And he ends up killing the two men with the help of the woman. So she's then on her own. But then she explains that these two, she was supposed to marry one of the men, and the other one was like the henchman. And she's been trying to escape, but if she escaped, they would have killed her. So like now he's helped. But there's the family of the man is going to be coming after them. So then our hero guy, he's sort of like, oh, come on in. He sort of scoops her up and like picks her up into the coach. And it's obviously, and he's, as he's sort of getting her by the coach now, ready to leave, he sort of looks at her and he says like you're beautiful. Like, and he basically falls in love with her, almost love at first sight. And they share a little moments here, like a kiss together. And then the baddies start coming, like these people that have got to chase them down. And it's like skeletal sort of like coach and horses come in with skeleton dogs, and skeleton riders are on the way after him. And he sort of looks at her and says, oh God, we've got to go, sort of thing. So he goes to get her in the coach, and she says to him, as he's about to get her in the coach, like, will you love me forever? Will you sort of never love anyone else? And will you only ever marry me? And he's like, yes, I will only ever marry you. I'll love you forever. He's obviously smitten with her straight away. Gets on the coach. They start riding away. Suddenly the coach disappears. And he sort of falls down, and he wakes up again in the coach yard. And he's back in present day. Or present day to him. And he's like, oh, this is a bit weird. Like, okay. And then sort of like gets up and walks around the coach yard, sees the dilapidated coaches, then sees a glove on the floor of this woman that he'd met. So it's that like thingy moment. He's got, oh, that's really sweet. And then the story ends. And then they're back in the sort of gentleman's club. And he's like, well, did he ever marry again? Did he ever find another love? And the bloke says, well, no, it was my uncle and he never did. So the story's kind of like he never did find love. He was going to wait for this woman. So obviously when he died, he would have met her in the afterlife. It's a really weird little romantic sort of like time travel ghost love story. So then the third story, and this was quite a good one. This is a very Scrooge based. Obviously Charles Dickens has wrote this. And I don't know if it was written before or after he wrote A Christmas Carol. This is a story about a gravedigger who's just a generally mean man. He's not a horrible man. Like, he's horrible to. He's got a dog. You see him. He's got no family, but you see him with his dog. And so I'm looking at my dog now, and he's like just throwing things at the dog. He's shouting at the dog. He berates this poor little dog. He's like a nervous nervous wreck because of this man. And then some carol singers knock on the door, and he's horrible to the carol singers, like threatens with them with a shovel. This carol singer's like, it's like all these little kids scatter, and this one kid's like, terrified of him, like, he's like, Rrr. So he's this horrible bloke, real nasty bloke, sort of nasty attitude, nasty swagger about him, and he's basically going to go dig a grave on Christmas Eve. And he goes to dig this grave on Christmas Eve, and as he's sort of digging away, he's drinking gin at the same time. He's just digging away at this grave, horrible to the dog again, a bit more. And suddenly, like, his gravestone behind him starts talking to him. It's like, it looks like death, basically. So it's originally like a triangle-shaped gravestone. And slowly, as it talks to him, like, the part of it cracks. He's got like arms, and the arms, the concrete from the gravestone shut off. He's got real arms. Eventually, it all comes off. He basically looks like the Grim Reaper. And he says to him, like, because the way, as horrible as you are, as nasty as you're going to be going where, like, into the dark place, and you're going to, people like you shouldn't exist. And he basically takes him to what looks kind of like hell. So you wonder if this is the devil. But in this hell, there's like those little goblins running around. So I'm wondering if it was kind of supposed to be hell, but they made it look more like goblin-esque. But he goes down with the goblins in this like goblin dungeon thing. And then the Grim Reaper type guy shows him like happiness and people that are happy. So people with families are happy, nature and all this nice stuff that's in the world, and how someone like him is ruining that. And he says to him, you're basically like a weed. And he shows him sort of like a vision of himself, like trashing like all this nature, treading on the plants, and suddenly like he becomes a weed, and then all these people trample. He's like, and he kind of has this realization that he is horrible and that he could be a better man. And then like suddenly sort of like he starts thrashing around. He wakes up in the like lying next to the grave that he's been digging. Obviously he's passed out drunk. It's all been like a dream. But he's kind of like taken something from that, because he suddenly like turns to his dog and he's like, come here. And you think he's going to be horrible to the dog again, but he scoops the dog up. He's like, oh, I'm going to look after you properly. I'm going to treat your loyalty right. It's like stroking the dog, giving it a cuddle. And the dog starts licking him. The dog looks really happy. And then he goes off. It's kind of like that. Now he's going to be a better man. He's going to sort himself out and become something better. And I thought that was such a lovely story. And then you go back to him sort of in the thing. It kind of ends abruptly, because you go back to him in the Gentleman's Club, and they're all sort of like, oh, that was a good story. And then the movie kind of ends and the credits sort of roll. And I was like, oh, and I'd have liked to have been some sort of like tie-in at the end. Maybe you see them all go home from the Gentleman's Club, or the power come back on. But they just sort of fizzled the movie out. And I wondered if there was ever going to be more of them. Maybe it was going to be a continuing thing. But this is the only one. This is the one I remember as a kid. I remember the ghost with the V-shape cut out of his mouth, and sort of like the goblin bit. I remembered that from my past. So I found something. So I'm hoping this video might jog your memory of the ghost stories from Pickwick Papers, it was called. Again, it's a Charles Dickens, I guess it's a novel or something that he wrote, and then they animated it back in 1987, probably when all the animations were becoming massive, because we had, like I said, we had like Watership Down come out, we had Lord of the Rings, all these animations that were kind of like, yes, for kids in a way, but it was more for adults. Like, it was almost like adult animations, but they couldn't mark it as that, so just like animations for kids. And usually they're like PG rated. But I vividly remember going into the video shop when I was younger and picking up the case of this. I remember the case. So as I've looked on Google for it, I've seen the case, and that's the case I remember picking up at the video shop. And all these like memories have come flooding back to me, just because I sort of was thinking to myself, like, what do I remember from, what did I watch as a kid? And I was like thinking, I remember like films like Santa Claus the movie popping in my head and things like that. And then I remember thinking of like He-Man and She-Ra, the Christmas special they did, and that kind of popped in my head. And that's when this memory suddenly went into my head of this like ghost stories. So anyway, guys, let me know if you remember. Do you remember ghost stories from Pickwick Papers? Did you, like me, rent it from the video shop? Have you? Is it something that you sort of like remembered continuously, or have you just remembered it sort of because I've mentioned it to you? Or do you think about it from the past, you've gone and looked at it? As I said, it is on YouTube. If you just type in ghost stories from Pickwick Papers on YouTube, there's a couple of people that put them up there. I think someone's sort of like got the old videotape and just sort of like recorded the videotape, then put it onto YouTube. I don't know how long it's going to be on there for, obviously, for copyright and stuff like that. I don't know if it's going to be there for a long time or not. I mean, the one I looked at said it's been there for 4 months. It was put on 4 months ago. There was another one that had been there a couple of years ago. So it's definitely worth... yeah, the one I've got it still on the screen now. It's Gary Matrix Videos, and it's had 315 views. It was 4 months ago. It was put on there. And there was, if I can find remote control, there was another one, another copy of it on there. That oh god, hang on. Done by Betamax King. That sounds cool. It's had 14k views, and that was put on there 3 years ago. So it's still on there. Oh, that's part of it. So yeah, so it's worth like having a little look at. It's a fun little horror story, basically, but like kids can watch if they wanted to. It's like all ghost stories. I love a good ghost story, especially at Christmas. Say about Christmas ghost stories. I think that's why like Charles Dickens himself like did so well with A Christmas Carol, and how that's still like a phenomenon now. But anyway, guys, I said, let me know if you've seen it. Let me know if you've got to watch it now. Let me know after you've watched it. Comment and see if you've enjoyed it. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys very, very soon for more reviews and stuff. And I will be doing my video, I don't know if you can see this, there's a big pile, I don't know if you're about to see it, of DVDs there that are all Christmas movies that I'm going to be talking about. So anyway, guys, I'll see you very, very soon for that. Bye.